Item 301, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Oh my God.
From Detroit, just wave the flag.
That's fun. All right. 302, not knock your chair over. It's approval of tonight's agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. 401, approval modification of the minutes from the October 9th Governing Board meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from the October 9th Governing Board meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Approval modification of the minutes from the October 9th executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Item 501, approval of tonight's consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. As part of tonight's consent, just wanted to thank Go With The Flow, Ballet Arizona, Toyota USA, Tempe South Rotary, DD's Discounts, Shoes That Fit, BioRidge Pharma, the Undies Chest for their donations. Moving on to 601, Celebrate Excellence. Dr. Driscoll.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate. District leaders recently surprised our first round of TD3 Spotlight Award winners, celebrating one employee at each of our 22 school sites and 3 district facility buildings. This award opportunity, brought forth by Chief of Employee Experience, Dr. Gwyneth Marr, celebrates the TD3 staff from each school site and district building. This monthly award opportunity is focused on recognizing employees who exemplify our mission of inspiring excellence, every child, every adult, every day. And I just want to say kudos to Ms. Marr. You did an awesome job with that. School Spotlight. Broadmoor Elementary recently hosted their annual Fall Festival for kindergartens. Fuller also did this as well. I was in attendance there. Some people in this audience have kids that go to that school, so I just wanted to shout out to Fuller. This event included a parade around the school campus so that all students and staff could see kindergartners in their Halloween costumes. Kindergartners also decorated fall-themed cookies and participated in fall-themed games. This event is something the entire Broadmoor community looks forward to each year. Fifth graders from Through Elementary and Spricali Elementary recently participated in a Cardinals camp opportunity at McClintock High School. I believe McClintock's 7-8-0 now in football. Cardinals cornerback Sean Murphy Bunny provided football instruction and participated in drills with the students. At the end of the day, Murphy Bunton, Cardinals cheerleaders in Big Red signed a t-shirt for all students to take home and remember their fun day. Carminati students in preschool through 4th grade have received a free winter coat from the Molina Healthcare. Roughly 250 coats were distributed by volunteers with the DLR group today. Volunteers assisted students as they tried on the coats to find the right fit. This is the second year in a row that Molina Healthcare has provided winter coats for our students. We are grateful for their partnership and for their generosity. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this meeting.
(701) Presentation, Master Facility Plan Update. Dr. Driscoll.
I think I'm up again. All right. Then my clicker's not working. There we go. So as always, just to set the stage, our strategic plan goal number 3 talks about identifying specialized programs in school options. It also talks about identifying and reducing barriers for our families. And so just a little brief history of where we got to this point. On November 8th, 2022, the Tempe Elementary voters approved a $196.5 million bond. On November 1st, 2023, we had a demographer, Rick Brammer, with Applied Economics, present to the governing board. And one of the things he talked about was, while some enrollment decline is projected based on shrinking school-age population, the most important factor to determine enrollment levels will be how the district responds to choice. On December 6th, the Tempe Elementary Governing Board approved to direct the superintendent to take the next steps, revisit boundaries specifically for the purpose of decreasing busing distance, which we have completed, explore early childhood center options that are pedagogically sound, build a more robust gifted program and explore other specialized options for schools, and address middle schools, including career exploration. Tonight, we'll be giving presentation about those three: explore early childhood center, build a more robust gifted program, and address middle schools. So that will be our tonight's presentation. On April 7th, we had representatives from Terracon present information around Conley, Curry, Fees, and Rover facilities. And on June 12th of 2024, I gave a phase plan on how to accomplish the goals set forth on the December 26, 2023 meeting. So with that, I have some recommendations. I'll have Jen Nasaban come up to the mic.
Good evening, President Miller, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. I'm Jennifer Nussbaum. I'm the Director of Innovative Environments and School Design. And when I started in July, Dr. Driscoll talked to me about the three pieces that he mentioned kind of leading up to this: early childhood programming, expanding gifted education, and then looking at some middle school options that would include career exploration. And my task was really to look at the viability of potential sites in our district that could feasibly house all the demands of such programs. And so that's what you'll see here. So in order to do this, I really decided to take a 4D, and as soon as I see that, it should be a 4P approach. There's people, place, purpose, and possibilities. And that's really, those are the lenses through which we stayed the entire time we looked at all of the things you're gonna see tonight. And another way to think about that is really the who, the who, the where and the when, and the how and the why. So the who is really about all the people that are impacted, all the people that could benefit from the decisions that we make based on this information, all the people that we might partner with, all the ways that TD3 can continue to help its students thrive into the future. The where and the when, that's our context, and that's time, and that's Tempe. And so it's really looking at the 150-year history that we have as a district, serving our families with really authentic, informed decisions and also innovative programming. The how, that is really about our strategic plan and holding true to our mission and to our vision. And then the why, of course, is providing those pathways for our students and offering them choices and kind of removing those barriers and making everything more accessible. So we're going to talk tonight about the feasibility of what we have existing in our district for sites and the demands of early childhood center, and that would be for students. Right now we're looking at 0 to 5, expanding our gifted program to include a gifted school, so it would be entirely consisting of students that qualify for receiving gifted services, and that's for K-8, and then looking at a possible direction for a middle school to include a specific career exploration piece, which obviously has some implications for facilities. And so we're going to talk about collaboration in just a minute, but I really wanted to focus on time and trends and trust, because I feel like that's a huge part of TD3, and I feel like that's why our relationship with the city of Tempe and with our community is so strong, is because we've built that. We've built things over time, and we have trends to demonstrate that, and we have the trust that we all know is there. And so when we look at those three programming possibilities, this is one of the ways that TD3 has made changes to better serve its communities. So these are the early childhood trends, and you can kind of see, so I went back to, this is again our relationship with the city of Tempe. So when Tempe Pre first opened in 2017, you can see that uptick in the number of preschool students we were able to serve in our district. And then we all know what happened in 2020 and why there's a big dip there. But I do want to point out that even though there was that big dip because people were hesitant to put their students in school, 82% of the 0 to 5-year-old students who were enrolled in schools were in our schools in our area, which is pretty impressive. And then that starts to climb. And then in 2022, when Carolyn McCleary added layers to our pre-K programming, you start to see that uptick again. I do want to explain the 2024. It looks like a dip, but that's because it's the very beginning of the school year that we took that data. And that always happens with early childhood. I mean, I sit right outside. I sit right next to Carolyn's office and right outside where I hear people call all day, every day to get their kids into our preschool program. So that number just climbs as the year goes. And so we have all these beautiful layers for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We've got our Kinder Prep and our Tempe Pre and Peer program, and then we of course have our Montessori options. But the idea is, what would happen if, could we really serve our community better by looking at a possible program for infants through 5-year-olds at a center that is really focused on the needs of those students and their families. So there's a parent piece to this as well. And so this is a quote that I asked Carolyn McCleary if I could use, because she's done some of the thinking already on what a comprehensive, inclusive early childhood center could do to serve our families. And then we also have a long history of serving our gifted students in TD3. And I know this personally because I was a PACE student at Fuller Elementary 100 years ago. And so it matters. We know that gifted programming matters, and Tempe has always had a commitment to identification and to servicing students who are eligible to receive gifted services. And some of the exciting things that have happened even in the last few months are the way that we continue to look at those identification practices and really expand the access and really look at what we're doing to help students and their families know that this is an option. And so I have this history of providing enrichment and in some cases acceleration, which we know acceleration is one of the best researched examples of how to appeal to a gifted learner and keep them attached to the school experience. And so the idea of having a K-8 gifted school, that's about 600 students who are all eligible to receive gifted services on one campus. That's a very different demand than a 0 to 5-year-old early childhood center. So we'll kind of look at what that means. But having 600 gifted students on one campus is incredibly thrilling. And when you start to think about all of the doors that opens, it gives them access, increased access to their intellectual peers. It gives us a community of teachers and of staff that are really devoted to understand the gifted mind and the gifted thinker and all of the complexities that comes with, all the intensities, all the excitabilities that comes with. These are some of our most complex students. That deserve kind of a complex environment. And so that's kind of the lens that we took with that. And then middle school career exploration, again, we've had a history of making sure that we appeal to that sense of exploration that we all know adolescents come packed with. That's the neuroplasticity of adolescence. That's the best time for us to really give them those chances to explore and to dip their toe in different pools. We know they're doing that anyway because that's the way their brains are developing. And so having those career exploration pieces too also removes those barriers and really makes learning something that's more engaging and more real and becomes a part of their story as they move through school. And this has been true for a long time. I would tell you, I lived for SHOP at FEES. Lived for it. I went to bed every night thinking about what I was going to build, what tools I was going to use, who I was going to build with, and I still use all of those skills and all that confidence that I gained from that opportunity today. So it's not new to us, we've done that. But then you start to think about what would a comprehensive career exploration middle school look like? Like what are all the things you might need in order to really provide students? Well, you need a lot. First of all, you need to know what the demands are of the professions and the trades and the industries that are around us and across the globe. And so this is a report here from the American Student Assistance Group, and this is from 2024, so it's current. And you can see that Arizona has some infrastructure in place. We are doing some good things when it comes to funding, and this is This report here is specific to middle school career exploration. There's pieces that we're still unfolding, though. There's policies that are still kind of vague, or there's language that doesn't really define what that should look like, career literacy at the middle school age. And we have a chance as a district to really shape that and shape what that could look like across the state. So over on the left, in the blue, you'll see that's Arizona Commerce Reports. Those are the industries that exist in our backyard. These are potential partners that our kids should have access to in a program that really opens eyes into all of the possibilities. So there's careers out there that people just don't know that they don't know about. And so that's one thing to think about. The other thing to think about is we have programs, so when they leave us after 8th grade, our high schools do have some CTE options. And I kind of looked at across our local high schools what their options are, and they look very familiar. They look very much like you would expect. There's culinary, and there's early childhood, and there's auto tech. And that's great, but there's still some places, if you kind of align those up to where our industries and our trades are in Arizona, where we could do better. As a district, we can do better. We can start to really build those pathways for them so that they know after 8th grade, I've already experienced some of these careers. I already kind of tried this one on and I tried that one on, and this is where I'd like to kind of invest my kind of energy in that future. So just keep in mind that infrastructure that's so strong, it comes from Perkins allocations, and when you analyze the Perkins allocations, most of those go toward secondary, which means that our kids that are enrolled in CTE programming in high school, that's where that money's going. So to the collaboration, you could see all of those pieces embedded in the trends in time and trust, but collaboration also came about when we really looked at how are we going to build metrics so that we can quantitatively analyze our sites and kind of objectively decide where do these make sense or do they make sense at all. And so this is just a list of the criterion that were developed for just early childhood. And you can see all the places that we connected to. ADOT is involved, MDOT. We reached out to the city of Tempe, looked at census tracts and really where are our 0 to 5-year-olds, where do they live, where are they projected to live, so that we could have kind of a serviceability factor. So we did that for each one of these programming possibilities. Here's the list for gifted, and you can see the folks from the district that were involved in that as well. And then we did the same thing for career exploration. And you can imagine how those are all very different in terms of demand. So when you're looking at a building, there's compliance that you need to really pay attention to for 0 to 5-year-olds, which is markedly different than you would be looking for in a middle school, obviously. Whoops. And so also through those 4 approaches, those 4 lenses, we really wanted to make sure it tied back into our vision and our strategic plan. That's our guiding light. That's our how of what we do. And so here's how we kind of found that alignment. What do we have already in place in terms of school systems, and what are the possibilities for those school systems to help kind of propel these ideas forward? How is our community involved? How is our community impacted? We looked at traffic impact. We looked at, because when you start to look at things like open enrollment schools, we all know what that does to a traffic pattern, because now suddenly a neighborhood school that was meant to have kids walking to it or bus to it, now you have 600 people dropping their kids off and picking them up. So we did all of those studies and really took time to look at all that. So just keeping in mind that the whole point of this is that element of choice for our families and expanding access and removing barriers. I put in here just a couple of examples of the scale that we built. So this is how we took some of those pieces that are a little more qualitative and we're able to assign values to them. And so for like busing possibilities, I talked to Jesse, we worked through that whole piece of what does that look like for students who might want to move around the district to go to a K-8 gifted program. What are the possibilities? So that became a number that we could use then to really evaluate each one of the sites that we looked at. And then here's another example. This is for early childhood. This is just, remember there's 11 or 12 criterion for each of the programming options. So The other thing we did was when we couldn't find the information, we built the information and we built a tool so that we could look at it kind of quantitatively. So lots of versions of Google Maps looked at where early childhood centers are, where are the private providers, where are the public providers, where are kids going now or not going. And so this is an example of that. This is related to the middle school career exploration. And you can see, just around us, this is like our backyard, you guys. Whoops. We've got all of these potential partners. And those are color coded, so when the arrow goes to 1, everything that's that color is also that. And so some of those opportunities, we're ripe for this. Like there's a lot that we could be doing. And here's another example. So building suitability, I talked a little bit about that. There's so many requirements and, for infants, for example, you need to have 35 square feet per infant, and they need lots of room and they need lots of visibility. The room has to be wall enclosed. It has to have 2 doors. It has to have high visibility. They have to have space for tummy time. They have to have separate toileting rooms and needs for their sinks and stuff like that. So all of that went into that, and we were able to assign number values to things. So that was the approach that we took, and then this is what it looks like. And so when we built the first visualizations, there's all 12 of the gifted metrics there, and you can see where there's some relatively strong metrics for this example site, and then here there's some relatively weak matches there. Weak in comparison to the average of the district. That was just what we were comparing each school to, was the average of the district. And so that's a lot to look at, so we simplified the visualizations and put everything into 4 buckets. Looking at buildings, grounds, location, and families. And some of those are more static than others. So when you look at the way a building is constructed, it's done, it's built. So we looked at that relative to the needs of each one of these programs. The location, though, that there are some pieces in there that seems like it would be static, but it's more dynamic than that because there's potentials for partnerships. And then there's ways that like our transportation department can work to make things more accessible. So those pieces are a little more dynamic. So let's just look at early childhood, and here's who we considered. We did not look at our middle schools for the metrics for an early childhood center. And I'm only going to talk about those that kind of more closely aligned with the average. And so you can see here sites 15 and 16, and it's always fun to kind of look at these visualizations to figure out where a school's metrics fell in relationship to the average. So 15, you can see that really same as most schools for building grounds and location for early childhood, but it had a huge positive impact on families. And then site 16, you can see it's less of an impact on families, but the building and the grounds might need slightly different amounts of attention. And I want to point out real quick on early childhood, when you see a 3 for the building for early childhood, that doesn't mean that it's ready for 0 to 5, because the way we wrote that criterion was that it requires minimal modifications to meet the needs of 0 to 5-year-olds. And then there was moderate, and then there was kind of more extreme. Here's your top 2. In terms of their total scores, they actually look identical because they scored virtually identical. And the recommendation here is that we come back and we look at these 2, or maybe you want to look at the top 4 schools and see if this is a direction that the board would like to move. And we did the same thing for K-8 gifted programming. So we evaluated these sites, so there's fewer sites. Any questions about the sites we didn't consider for gifted programming? Okay, so then the top few gifted program alignment, you can kind of see where you start to see those points extend beyond the average in some cases, but these were the highest scoring in terms of that average. And so if you take a look at site 13, it's a pretty strong match for a K-8 gifted program, and the recommendation here would be to come back and we can look at whatever sites you want to look at, but we can look at what that would mean for our families in terms of accessibility and also in terms of movement, because somebody's going to have to move. And then career exploration, we did the same thing, only in this case we looked at every single one of our sites. And these are the top kind of ranking schools in terms of alignment with the demands of that program. And Site 17 is actually pretty interesting because it's just a little bit above every single average point, which means that might be a starting point for conversations. But then if you look at the next four, and you look at like sites 22 and 23. 22 has a building and a grounds that would probably require less of our funds to modify for a career explorations pathway, but it might not have the same kind of impact on our families that we're hoping for. Site 23 has kind of a different level of impact on our families. So the recommendation here is just like the others, is let's sit down and figure out, because there's also the order of things as well. Do these happen all at once? Do they happen at all? Once a domino falls, a domino falls. And so a lot of time and energy and effort went into building metrics so that we could objectively decide if we had sites that were viable. And the good news is, yeah, we do. We have sites that are viable options for all three of these programs. And then it would just be up to a team to decide which sites those are. And so, again, focusing on the people, obviously the place, the purpose, and the possibilities. What questions do you guys have?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really excited when I went through this because it's data, it's location, it's geography, and it's applied stuff, and it's about helping kids and helping families and helping our community,
Agreed.
given our current assets, and then perhaps where we want to be. So thank you for bringing this to us from that standpoint, and I'm glad that my employer, ADOT, is also considered in this. So, Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. All I can tell you right now and to the entire community is for months and months, I've been able to say, we are reimagining education. We are reimagining education. And I knew what you guys were working on and I wasn't able to share it. And bam, community, here you go. We are reimagining education. And I'm grateful for the leadership in Dr. Driscoll in doing that. And there was a lot of hard work by all these rows. And especially you in putting it into defining this. I am grateful to be committed to a board that wants to do that, especially when other districts, we're in a community that wants us to succeed. And I'm so relieved that we're getting to talk about this tonight instead of what some of the others are having to talk about. So thank you for doing this. Just know that it's exciting, and I hope that the district and the teachers and the parents and the community see the excitement in this, because we have a responsibility to the post-2020 scholars to give them the tools that they need to succeed now, not back in 1974. And I just want to thank you guys for doing this, and I'm excited. Like I'm ready. We could meet tonight at 9 o'clock and let's figure out what we're going to do here. So thank you again, and thank you for being so thorough and showing. Now, my one question is there a holdout on what Site 17's name is and 18's name is, because you don't want us to know which ones you're recommending?
I'm glad you asked that. The reason they're not up there is because it's that people piece. Whatever the decision is, the people that are impacted the most deserve to have that information before the whole wide world, right? So that, and I know that's frustrating, and
No,
I'm
I know.
sorry that
That's
people
very
are like,
good.
"Wait, is that
So
me? Is
everybody
that-"
who's going to email me tomorrow,
Right.
I do not know
You don't
what
know.
number 17
No.
is. And no, your school has not been chosen to get that
Right.
yet. So don't email me tomorrow. Thank you. You can email me anytime, but just, I'm not going to be able to answer that question. As you heard, we don't know how that's going to affect the people yet. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you for this presentation. This is something that the board has been dreaming of for a very long time, and it's exciting to see some level of fruition happening. So thank you for that. I do have a few questions.
Sure.
You asked the question, closer? Sorry, can you not hear me?
I can hear you, but they might not be able to.
Because I can barely hear you, but I think it's the AC.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. And I'm also just getting old, so. You asked the question about, is there any questions about the sites not being considered for the gifted K-8?
Right.
So I did want to know, with Curry and Connolly in the middle of a rebuild, why wouldn't we consider either of those, or a combination of those?
That's a fair question. I can certainly go back and run the metrics again. That's actually the first one that I tackled. And at the time, because it was going to be in that rebuild phase or the renovation phase for an unknown amount of time, that's why it wasn't considered. But I can certainly go back and run the numbers.
Okay, I would like to see those numbers.
Okay.
I'm sorry to
Sure, I can do that.
add something. I also wanted to know the impact on families, and maybe I just missed it when I was looking in the rubric, but what does that mean for impact on families? Because we know we have a somewhat transient community, and is that like a specific range of time for impact on families, like over the next 20 years, or?
Depending on which of the programming possibilities, what we did look at was movement. So when it came time to look at certain sites, one of the factors was, were these students impacted recently by a reboundary? If they were, let's not do that to them again, or let's make that, a 1 or 2 in that metric, so it's a piece of the metric. And then in some cases, it was the benefit or the way that it could serve families that don't currently have access to something like that. So there's a couple different factors that went into the family piece of it.
Okay, did we look at like the stability of that neighborhood in terms of more children coming? Because we know we have a population decline issue.
Yeah, we did. We looked at the demographers report, and then I actually went through the projections from our census as well. And I talked to even some developers about where they're building some multifamily homes. And so we kind of know where those pockets are too. So that became a factor as well.
Thank you. And again, very exciting. Ms. Ewers stole exactly what I was thinking, the whole reimagining education, and especially the 0 to 5. Like, it's been something that has, I've had kids a million years ago, it feels like, even though they're not that old. But, it was a desperate need for our family that was never fulfilled, short of my mother. And I'm really grateful that we're actively exploring all 3 of these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Got it.
Just want to reiterate everyone's comments.
Thank you.
Moving on to 702, presentation, Connolly Middle School and Curry Elementary School Facility Assessment Report. I believe we have David Schmidt.
I'll go ahead and take that. I don't have a microphone, but I have a loud voice.
You let them know.
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, since our bond program, approximately 2005, we've totally renovated 10 campuses and remodeled and rebuilt 6 of them. Before we start this process, we always got to determine whether we're going to rebuild or remodel our campuses. To do that, we hire our architect to do an assessment of these facilities. They look at a lot of different systems, electrical systems, the building envelope. They look at HVAC systems, life safety, and all of that. To do the assessment, and this evening, tonight, we have David Schmidt with us from DLR Architects that did the assessment of Connolly and Curry. And David will explain this process to you and how we came up with the decision to renovate or rebuild. So.
Thanks, David.
Good evening, President, Madam, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is David Schmidt. As Mr. Farmer said, I'm an architect with DLR Group. I'm joined today by Brittany Hester, who's also an architect with DLR Group. If you are not familiar with us, we are an architecture and engineering firm. And so we have all the people on staff to look at things like a building assessment. And so Mr. Farmer and the team asked us to do that. As you know, as we embark upon looking at a major project at a school like that, the question is always whether you fix it or whether you rebuild it or whether you add additions to it. And so we sent our entire team out there for a day. We went through the existing drawings, we poked around, we looked at all the condition of things, and and I'm here to present the findings of those for you guys tonight. So if you look at how you might go about doing this, obviously on the light end, you might go and just fix all the things that are there. You might renovate some things. You might kind of bring all the ADA things up, and so kind of just do a refresh. In the middle, you might look at gutting the interior of a building, rebuilding components of it, making some new age learning spaces in the interior. You might actually start to tear down a component of the building and actually add some of those types of spaces that you don't have now. And on the other extreme end, you might tear down the whole structure and decide to build completely new. And so to decide how to do that, you really look at what are the goals of the district. And so one of the big goals of the district was when we finish a rebuild, we hope to have a structure that's going to last us for 50 plus years. And so if you look at the age of the school is right now, it's fit in that range. And so you're really looking at replacing most everything on the campus. Secondly, we look at the operational efficiency of the building itself. We look at does it operate does it provide for safety and security of our students along the modern standards that we've set within the district? Does the kitchen work right? Do the students flow in an effective manner so they're taking less time out of their learning? And you might look at accessibility. A goal should always be that we have university accessible for all of our students and that they all have the same opportunities in our school, and many of the older ones don't have that or we find it difficult to provide those types of things. And the third thing is educational efficiency, or are they providing for the educational environments that allow our teachers to deliver curriculum that's going to serve our students for 50 years. When we look back at the way our schools are built now, they were built 50 plus years ago on a model that may have been 50 years previous to that. And so we're really looking at different types of spaces. So going through these projects, we did all of that, and sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. Starting with, from an engineering standpoint, this is something you're probably keen to, Mr. Lemon. From a civil engineering standpoint, the big picture of the campus itself, what would we have to do? So the modern, the way we retain water, the way we drain sites, we would assume that we would have about retention basins that have about a foot of freeboard on them and retain a foot or more of water. What we have right now is fields that are less than a foot deep. And so you look at it from that standpoint, to bring everything up, we would end up regrading much of the site that we have right now if we were going to save the buildings themselves. If you look at it from the perspective of efficiency on the site, the way the buses come in, the way the parents drop off, we're not meeting current standards for the city sets on traffic and how you queue cars and how much space you have, so they're not backing up onto the street. So that is something that's, again, fixable, but quite invasive to the site itself. Stepping then into the building itself, you start to look at structure. And the structures of the building are actually very effective. And that's actually probably one of the things that would last the longest. And so the structures could continue to last for an additional 50 plus years. The only caveat being a few of the wood roofs on some of the structures, if we get into, and I'll talk about mechanical in a moment, adding new mechanical systems and more efficient mechanical systems, they tend to be bigger and heavier, and putting those on a wood roof would require structural enhancement. Looking at mechanical and plumbing, I'll kind of lump those into the same category. Again, if you think of it like an old automobile, the engine block itself is in good condition, but all the stuff around it needs to be replaced. And so that's actually a lot of stuff. And so from a mechanical standpoint, we have really good chillers, and we've replaced water heaters and things like that. But the piping itself was never intended to last till now, plus an additional 50 to 60 years. And so it's not saying it's in critical condition at this moment, But I think over the next decade, if we chose to keep that or not replace that, the facility staff would start seeing a lot of failures that would start to happen, and we'd start having to replace components of that. Anyway, and then last, mechanical or electrical. And so a lot of the lighting has been replaced already with, we know that LED lighting is as much as like 75% more efficient. And a lot of that has been done. Not all of it has been. And so you could look at that and say, we could renovate that. The systems themselves, though, a lot of the wiring is old, and a lot of the breakers are probably past their point at which we could actually even find parts for them. And so we start to look at actually having to replace electrical gear like that. So when you start to look at it from this perspective, you kind of go, you could fix this. You could do any of those things. I think the thing that really pushes it over the line is the operational, educational efficacy of the building itself. And so if you were to renovate, you're confined by this envelope that we already have, and so you're somewhat limited by what you can put in there. So we could put new age learning environments into an existing structure, but they're going to be somewhat compromised by the shapes of the buildings themselves. And additionally, the way the children flow around the site and the way the kitchen is used is going to be somewhat compromised. And I think that is one of the things that really pushes it over the edge. And so the recommendation that we're looking at is to completely rebuild the campus. And I think that if you look at all of those things I talked about, replacing all those things and bringing them up to spec and making it an existing building the way we would want it to be, we would end up spending as much money or near as much money as rebuilding a project. And in the end, we would still have some compromises along the way. And so that really speaks to the idea that rebuilding the campus gives us the opportunity to really reimagine the types of environments that we're making for our students in the future, and set us up to lower our operational costs in terms of replacing things in the future. And I think it really gives us the opportunity to make this a super energy efficient building as well, something that we would never quite be able to achieve with the older buildings. In other words, have a really good building envelope, have really super efficient building systems, maybe supplement that with sustainable energy systems as well. And so I think we could really have a state-of-the-art project by going that route. So with that, I will entertain any questions. Ms. Hester's here because she was did the report with me and has dug into a lot of the things that I didn't, and so she's can hopefully help me answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you for the presentation. We, a few months ago, had a cost analysis of maintaining our buildings versus, I don't remember all of it, but we had this major cost analysis, and you're right in line with what we heard from that audit. As a parent who's now had 3 kids in that school, you're absolutely right about the traffic issues. I'm so grateful my kid has a 0-hour class so I don't have to deal with it in the morning. I'm tired of air conditioning complaints of being too hot, too cold, sitting in school events and melting myself. And the egress points from the interior of the campus are definitely concerning in terms of our different standards of safety nowadays. So I am very appreciative that my parental concerns are the same things that you are expressing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I briefed your material. I agree with it 100%. And my question is, do we have enough site footprint to start building a replacement and move over like we did with Nevitt, or perhaps like what was done Frank or Mosley? What's your thought on that? I mean, you've been around for a while.
If you look at, we've talked about having students off-site while we're doing this, right? And so that gives us the opportunity. Well, if we go that way, that gives us the opportunity to alleviate some of those concerns. The obvious allows us also the opportunity to place the school in maybe in a more ideal location as well. It is a tight site. It's 26 acres, I believe, for 2 schools. So if you start to look at the site where you'd build the campus and leave the existing one operational, it's very tight. And as you notice, a lot of your newer schools are multiple stories, and so we would probably go that way anyway, just in terms of getting all that parking on there. We've begun to look at sort of hybrid options that would, like what if you were to take out 1 or 2 buildings and leave the other one operational and you were to build on one half of the site. And so they're all being evaluated. You may know Core Construction is on board to do pre-construction with us. And so they have the expertise on what each of those scenarios does in terms of cost and accelerating things and where we're getting the best value for a construction dollar based on those, and balancing that with impact upon the students as well. So in terms of a final solution for that, there's a lot of opportunities. I think your question though, could you rebuild on the fields and leave the other one? Yes, it's very tight.
Well, that was my
Yeah.
opinion too, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Unless we took Ms. Ewer's house and her block
Okay.
across the
Okay.
street. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, especially the part about the energy efficiency with everything. I mean, it's a very hot summer we just had. They're only going to get hotter, so that's something to keep in mind. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Miller. Is that all?
I think so.
Good.
Moving on to 801, open call to the public. I don't believe we have any blue cards, so moving on, 901, discussion, consideration, and possible action concerning an employee step 4 appeal pursuant to policy GBK, including upholding administration step 3 decision or rejecting administration step 3 decision and approving alternative action.
I'd like to make a motion that the administration review and clarify regulation IIBR to reflect current practices and encourage site administration to share staffing data at staff meetings on at least a monthly basis.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 902, discussion, consideration, and possible approval to rebuild or remodel Connolly Middle School and Curry Elementary School.
While I'm not thrilled about having my son displaced for a little while, I'd like to make a motion to approve a rebuild of Connolly Middle School and Curry Elementary School.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And before we get too far away from it, there was a thing I was supposed to read after our 901. Yeah, I was on it with my elbow. So the decision of the governing board is final pursuant to regulations GBKR. The governing board shall fully report in open session its findings, including reasons for actions taken at the next regularly scheduled governing board meeting. The governing board directs the superintendent to prepare a statement for the board president, that's me, to read at its next meeting with the following information: the decision made by the governing board and the reasons provided by the board members during the vote. All right. Now finally 901 is fully done. All right, 903, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding between Tempe Elementary Schools and Free Life Wellness Center LLC, and to authorize the superintendent to sign the agreement. Dr. Driscoll, if you wanted to speak on this item.
Yes, I'll turn it over to Michelle to address any questions you might have, but this is a partnership that we're looking at offering services to our students at Fuller. And so I'll have Michelle, if she wants, because she doesn't have a mic, to come up and answer any questions that you guys might have about this partnership.
Good evening. What questions can I answer for you?
Allison, go ahead.
Well, one comment that I wanted to make is that I'm elated that any time that we can bring in services for our kids, we know that there's behavioral issues. We know that our students are struggling with a lot of things that are out of our control that we have taken on to help them with. And so I'd like to thank you personally for reaching out to Free Life Wellness Center and working on such a contract. My question for you is how will the services that our children are getting be paid for?
Excuse me. This particular agency works very similar to our Southwest partnership and our Taros partnership. If the family does have insurance or other means, they go through that method to provide therapy on the school campus for families that sign up ahead of time and go through an intake process. If the family does not have insurance or are underinsured, this particular agency partners with the Lalo Boys Foundation. It's a nonprofit that will help pay for 6 free sessions for that child.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Charlotte.
Sorry, Ms. Grimaldi, just want to clarify, so there's no sliding scale for this one, or there is a sliding scale?
They will provide the 6 free sessions. After that, most likely they do a sliding. I'll have to double check that particular answer, but this agency, I'm really pleased. It is harder for our behavioral health agencies to provide that free services because a lot of the behavioral health block grants have gone away along with ESSER and other funding. So our agencies are looking at other options to provide for families that are underinsured or non-insured.
Okay, I was just hoping for, if you wouldn't mind providing confirmation of like sliding scale for those who can't afford continuity of care.
Some of our agencies like Southwest, that is their policy.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? May I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the MOU between Tempe Free Life Wellness Center LLC and to authorize the superintendent to sign the agreement.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. 9:04, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a facility use agreement between AZ K-12 Center and Tempe Elementary School District for the National Board Certified Teacher Program.
As you guys are aware, we have teachers that participate in the National Board Certified Teacher Program. With this understanding, they will be able to use our facilities to have meetings with those teachers. Some of those teachers might not be in our district, which is why we have to have this agreement in place so that when those teachers come, that we're not giving a gift of public funds for that.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the facilities use agreement between AZ K-12 Center and Tempe Elementary School District for the National Board Certified Teacher Program.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. 9:05, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the HVAC apprenticeship position and corresponding job description.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the HVAC apprenticeship position and the corresponding job description.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the electrician apprenticeship position and corresponding job description.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the electrician apprenticeship position and the corresponding job description.
I have a motion by Charlotte and a second by Allison. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. 9:07, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the data and compliance specialist position and the corresponding job description.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the data and compliance specialist position and the corresponding job description.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. 908, discussion, consideration, and possibly give direction on voting on one bylaw change proposal from the Arizona School Boards Association. Monica?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's funny you say one bylaw change because there's actually a lot of them, and some of them are fine and good, but for the most part, there's a lot of them that might be questionable or vague and unclear in language. So I'm concerned about some of those. So it's a one sweep motion. If it was one by one, I think I'd feel more comfortable with it. But since it's several of them in one, and some of them I'm concerned about or don't agree with, so I thought that was interesting.
I suppose you could, we could table this whole thing, or you could say if there was specific ones you wanted changed, and then we could say as amended, or, It's a lot. It's a lot? All right.
I'd like to make a motion to table the one bylaw change proposal from the Arizona School Boards Association pending clarification or desegregation of the different items.
Second.
A motion to table it from Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. 909, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy BAA, evaluation of school board self-evaluation.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to BAA, evaluation of school board self-evaluation.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. 910, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy DJE, bidding purchasing procedures.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy DJE, bidding purchasing procedures.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy GCFC, professional staff certification and credentialing.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to governing board policy GCFC, professional staff certification and credentialing.
Second. The motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy GDFA, support staff qualifications and requirements.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to governing board policy GDFA, support staff qualifications and requirements.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Item 913, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IGA, curriculum development. Charlotte?
I just have a question about this. So this change would remove the requirement to have certified teachers serve on curriculum committees. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was, and it was for a statutory basis. There was lack of that they're actually required to be on there.
But we can add it if we think it's important. I would like to make a motion to not accept the changes to the governing board policy IGA curriculum development based on the fact that teachers should be involved in every single curriculum development process.
Question. And Dr. Driscoll, this was a policy revision recommended by ASBA, correct? I'll second.
So I have a motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica to decline this policy update. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Item 914, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IMG, animals in schools. Allison.
Mr. President and Dr. Driscoll, I just want to confirm as I was reading this, because I know that this topic of animals in schools has been coming up regularly. This has to do with students who need animals for service. This does not have to do with animals that are therapeutic.
Correct. This is pertaining to service animals. The statute would service animals, not therapy animals.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes to governing board policy IMG, animals in schools.
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Finally, 915, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy JFB, open enrollment.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to governing board policy JFB, open enrollment.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 1001, board information.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring up on the health side of things for everybody to make sure that you start now, get preparing for February 15th Love Your Heart Walk. And why am I mentioning this so early? It's because if you read your newsletter this week, it talks about how a majority of us are going to gain 10 to 15 pounds from Halloween to New Year's. And I looked back, and sure enough, that is a true fact in my household. So we are going to start preparing now in order to not gain the 10 to 15 pound holiday weight. That does not mean that I'm not going to still eat the cookies and candy, but I am going to look forward to the 2:50. Did I mention it's February 15th? Love Your Heart Walk. So heart walk or run, Eric, we call you Sonic. Other Eric, you're running this year. Game's on. So that also, your farm bag, so cool. So remember that you guys can order the farm bags, check out the newsletter. It talks about where, when, how, and why. And the culinary class that's going to be in December, and I believe it's related to some of the foods that you get in the bag, which is way cool because I can tell you right now, if I got fresh produce, I would not know what to do with it. So that shows you my cooking skills. So it's making me want to be a teacher and one of our staff members to be able to go to that. So please open those emails from Sandra because there's some really cool things that hopefully we can help make your lives better and healthier. I wanted to thank the city for the For Our City Make a Difference event that they had over at Sella Park. We cleaned Sella Park, and there were many people from our schools and our administration that came out to help us. And not only did we clean that, but we were able to clean Curry. And the coolest thing about it is that the amount of community members that came out to it and we're asking the kids questions and seeing the kids take pride. And it was neighborhood kids, and it was kids who don't live in the neighborhood and were at their grandparents' house. And they were able to fix our bikes, and the kids were able to learn how to build a fountain at home. So needless to say, we have 4 fountains made of Coke bottles at our house now. So now we have to work on a mosquito issue. So it's all about learning, right? It keeps on going. So I just want to thank all the neighbors who came out, the community that did, and the city for sponsoring such a great event. And everybody who's from here, and you know who you are, that went out there and helped us clean up. There was bags and bags of trash. I want to say there was over probably 20 bags of trash. And that's amazing. And it's just little pieces at a time. So just like in life, one step at a time, one piece at a time, keep things clean. I also was able to do the coolest thing on the Spotlight Awards. I was able to attend 2 of them for Mr. Rand at Frank and Mr. Ross at Nevitt. And I'm loving that we're doing that. And my favorite part about it is that it is peer influenced, and there are so many people that enjoy working with the people that they work with, and they deserve the recognition. And it's just, it's a really nice thing. And I really enjoyed being part of that because they were highly, highly surprised. And that was the coolest part of it because they had no idea it was coming. And then everybody who had festivals and trunk or treats and picnics and all that good stuff on our campus over this last holiday, thank you. And to the PTAs that organized that, that is a big deal. It is a lot of work and it's a lot of candy gathering too. And for everybody who did trunks and people who helped with games and I mean, it just takes an army. It took an army, and I went to 3 different ones and got to see them. And it brought community members that are not going to our schools out so they could enjoy it with their families. And that's even better for us to spotlight that we are welcoming to all and we want you to see the good things that we're doing. So thank you for everybody that did that. And on another note, I'd like to thank the community for putting your trust in me for another 4 years to, one, make sure that we spend our money as wisely as we can, 2, to take care of our kids with our best ability, and 3, to be a pain in the side for Dr. Driscoll. You got me 4 more years, buddy. And it's just a real honor, and something that I'd like to keep the community aware of is that we in Tempe just received a magical moment. And when I say that, it's because the people who are going to be representing us in all the levels, I know, love our schools. And they love what we're doing in our community. They passed our overrides, so I'd like to thank them for that. It's a big deal, and for everybody who worked on the overrides. This did not happen in every community. This did not happen across the United States. And now what I have to do is make an ask. I'm going to ask everyone in this room and the community members who are supporting us and the families and the teachers and the staff and the board, we have a big responsibility to make sure that we show them why we deserved that. We need to keep standing up. And there's no time that I think that anybody is not doing their job in this group. And we need to be more transparent of the things that we're doing for our communities to deserve that, because they want us to succeed. And I want to thank everyone around us for wanting that in your neighborhoods. So again, thank you to everyone who has supported me, who supported this board, who supported the administrative staff, and most of all, it was all about the kids, and I need it to stay all about the kids. And I think we got that message across, and they're ready for that too. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Allison. I really appreciate all the hard work you've put in for the last 3 months, explaining what the override was about, explaining what putting the kids first is all about, and how we use the money and the transparency. So thank you for your leadership in that. It really made a difference, and I was proud to work with you on that, and thanks so much. I also went to a couple trunk and treat events. It's my first time. Usually I'm out of town or something, but I don't know why I didn't go where there's candy and kids. But I did go. I went to Spicali and I had a great time, and I didn't recognize Miss Ewers and her husband because they were in costume. I'll just leave it there. And but it was a great event, and there were lots of tables and lots of parents there, lots of food. There was a lot of lemon head candy that was given out. And so it was a great event. But I also went to Mosley the following week. What's it called? The Day of the Dead? Yeah, and it was good. And particularly the Drench the Teacher thing, where you can throw bean bags and try and drench in the bucket dumps on the teacher. And I invested about $20 on that. Well, it went to a good cause. So I thought that was great. But I think one of the highlights of the last couple of weeks for me was being over at McCamey during the Hispanic events, and the dancing and the music and the displays. It was just fantastic. And the food, did I say that? Say it again. And it was a good event. And I was very pleased that we were doing that. And all our schools operate slightly different, but they have this character and this vibe that goes on about them. And it's really cool. It's really cool. And we have a choice. And it's a public school, and parents make that choice all the time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly say and reiterate thank you to our community for supporting our public schools here in Tempe. We appreciate it so much and cannot state that enough, and wanted to say a major congratulations to Ms. Ewers and Mr. Lemon and Mr. Thierry, who were just elected to serve on this board. Congratulations, and it's been an honor to serve with you guys, and I'm just so thankful to be part of Tempe, and thank you to everybody, the community who made, made people say yes to believing in our school. So thank you to everyone who put the work in. I know it was a lot of you, so thank you for that. And thank you to Ms. Hudson for this very cute happygram. Thank you. So that's all.
Well, I just want to throw my congratulations in to Ms. Ewers and Mr. Lemon. Happy to be serving with you guys for more years. I was a little bit heartbroken to not have Ms. Trejo's name on the ballot. I think I'm already starting the grieving process over that, but I'm grateful for the service that she's given, and we'll hopefully have a really great couple of months before you leave us. I have always known Tempe is a special place, but looking at the results of overrides across the state, Tempe's just a shining star in every way, and I'm so grateful for the support of our community, not just for our kids, because it's always great to vote for kids, but to vote for teachers in the controversial times that we live in. It just was reassuring that there are people who appreciate all the effort we pour into our future. And then I also wanted to thank Mosley Middle School for reaching out to Tempe High to recruit their Key Club, which my daughter's the president of, to come over for trunk or treat, because it made it a family affair. And it was great to build that, collaboration with the feeder schools. And then last but not least, thank you for the administration. We had a stakeholder who had some concerns, and Dr. Driscoll not only jumped on it, but brought in the team and worked through some issues that, plans are being made to rectify and to improve the process. And I was really not just grateful for it, but honored that I would be considered a worthy voice in the process. And, I think that that's something that not every school board member in the country gets to have. Sometimes we get to just complain or praise, but to also be considered a worthy partner meant a lot to me. Thank you.
And in my addition to the thanks to the City of Tempe for passing overrides, and my congratulations to Jim and Allison, I will say I do run the Love Your Heart 5K. I am not nearly as fast as Mr. Thompson. It is still technically running. It is just my pace, It still counts, all right? That's all I have to say. 11:01, announcements, upcoming events. Veterans Day is Monday, November 11th. All schools and district offices will be closed. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, November 13th at 11 a.m. The 41st annual Don Carlos Humanitarian Award ceremony and dinner will take place on Monday, November 18th at 5:30 p.m. at the SRP Para Club. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will take place on Wednesday, November 20th at 7 p.m. here at the governing board room. Thanksgiving break will be Wednesday, November 27th, 2024 through Friday, November 29th. All schools and district offices will be closed. The ASBA 67th Annual Conference will be December 19th to the 20th at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge Resort. And finally, the Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held Saturday, February 15th, 2025 at 8 a.m. at Kiwanis Park. And once again, I will be running. Finally, 12:01, meeting adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Motion by Charlotte, second by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.